They weren't the first to do this. It was Blake Lively, it was Ryan Reynolds, this was their strategy, and now they kind of want to put the genie back in the bottle, but guess what? The genie does not want to go back in the bottle.
Have you ever wondered if Hollywood's friendly faces are really as wholesome as they appear? Ryan Reynolds often seems like the ultimate charming prankster, the one who lights up every talk show with deadpan jokes and viral quips. But here's the question nobody expected to ask. Is there a darker, more controlling side lurking underneath his sarcastic exterior? Because while he's made an entire career out of cracking jokes and winning over fans, a string of behind-the-scenes stories paints a far less flattering picture. From allegedly threatening the career of a makeup artist to steamrolling directors and co-stars, Ryan Reynolds may not be the beloved Hollywood hero people assume. And for the first time, it seems Hollywood is finally fed up with his ego. It all started with an alarming story that bubbled up during the production of Deadpool 2. By then, Reynolds wasn't just the star, he was also one of the film's producers, meaning he had a level of power and authority that most actors can't even dream of. According to an inside source, when his personal makeup artist couldn't return for reshoots due to a prior commitment, Ryan took it as a personal offense. Rather than hiring someone else, something that should be easy in an industry teeming with talented artists, he allegedly threw down an ultimatum. The claim? He told that makeup artist if they didn't drop everything and fly back immediately, they'd never work in Hollywood again. One can only imagine the shock and anxiety that might cause, especially when you rely on a network of professional relationships to keep your career afloat. Suddenly, you're facing the possibility of being blacklisted, all because Ryan Reynolds couldn't accept a simple scheduling conflict. It's an unsettling glimpse into how a supposed nice guy might behave once the cameras stop rolling. Some have argued that maybe it was a misunderstanding or a bad day, but if this were a one-off incident, it might be easier to brush under the rug. The trouble is, the more you look into Reynolds' track record, the more stories crop up about his need for total control. And if you thought strong-arming a makeup artist was surprising, just wait until you hear what happened to the original Deadpool director.
That says he had quite an experience demanding his makeup artist show up or get fired. I'll share that story for you.
Before Deadpool hit theaters, the film's creative team revolved around director Tim Miller, who many credit with turning an offbeat Marvel anti-hero into a blockbuster sensation. Fans loved Deadpool for its irreverent humor and fourth wall-breaking style, but while audiences were lining up for tickets, tension was already building behind the scenes. By the time Deadpool 2 was set to begin production, Tim Miller stepped away, despite the first film's massive success. Why would a successful director walk out on a project that had already become a cultural sensation? The rumor mill pointed straight at Ryan Reynolds. The star had creative control over the sequel, and Miller later confirmed he left because of what he described as differences in vision. However, some believe it goes deeper than a typical creative dispute. They allege Reynolds was unwilling to share the spotlight or compromise. When an industry heavyweight like Miller hints he simply couldn't deal with relentless battles over every decision, it suggests an environment where one person's ego overshadowed everyone else's vision. People had hoped that perhaps these rumors were exaggerated. Yet, more and more insiders began to speak up, painting an image of a star who had morphed into a power-obsessed figure. The real question: did Deadpool's success unleash something in Reynolds that nobody saw coming? But it's not just directors facing his strong-armed methods. Co-stars have felt his wrath, too. Co-stars don't usually come forward about each other's behind-the-scenes behavior, especially if they want to keep working in the industry. Morena Baccarin, who plays Wade Wilson's love interest in the first Deadpool, was a standout in her role. Fans adored the chemistry between her and Reynolds, until the second movie sidelined her character unexpectedly. What changed? According to various whispers, Baccarin had a disagreement with Reynolds on set, possibly over creative choices or scheduling. The next thing you know, her character's significance diminished drastically, and she was conspicuously absent from major press tours and group photos. While nobody has confirmed the exact reason, it's hard not to notice how her once central presence shrank to near cameo status. The allegations suggest she fell into the crosshairs of an actor unwilling to tolerate pushback. Whether these rumors are entirely true or not, the story lines up with a pattern of Reynolds clashing with collaborators, and then making sure they're no longer part of the conversation. But the hits keep on coming from those willing to speak openly, especially comedic actor TJ Miller. In Hollywood, TJ Miller is known for his comedic chops and outspoken nature. He won fans over with memorable roles and hilarious commentary. Surprisingly, when he opened up about working on the Deadpool films, the tidbits he shared weren't flattering. He described Reynolds as weirdly mean, emphasizing that the cruelty wasn't delivered as a playful on-set joke, but rather a personal jibe that left him feeling humiliated. Miller even recounted an incident where Reynolds, in character, hurled insulting lines that seemed less about entertainment and more about putting TJ in his side character place. Normally, behind-the-scenes banter might be shrugged off, especially among comedians. But Miller sounded genuinely unsettled, pointing out that this wasn't a comedic riff, it was a targeted slight. When a professional funny man can't find humor in someone's behavior, it says a lot. And it raises an important question. If Reynolds was comfortable belittling TJ Miller in front of everyone, was it a performance or a glimpse of his true personality? One actor after another has apparently cut ties, and next up is someone who seemed like an actual friend, until they weren't. Jake Gyllenhaal is famous for being tight-lipped when it comes to drama. His refusal to engage in extended feuds has earned him a reputation as someone who'd rather walk away than stir the pot. That's why it's so revealing that he suddenly severed all public ties with Ryan Reynolds after they co-starred in the sci-fi thriller Life, 2017. In the beginning, the pair seemed inseparable. They did interviews together, joked around on set, and appeared to be forging a genuine Hollywood bromance. Then, out of the blue, Gyllenhaal went silent. He reportedly unfollowed Reynolds on social media, dodged any mention of him in interviews, and looked irritated if anyone brought up Reynolds' name. Gyllenhaal isn't out there broadcasting details, but insiders suggest serious tension erupted during filming. Some speculate that Reynolds' controlling behavior overshadowed their friendship, creating a rift too big to salvage. The transformation from playful buddies to complete strangers was so swift that fans were left scratching their heads. This wasn't a mere scheduling conflict, it felt personal. And Jake Gyllenhaal isn't the only Life cast member with stories to tell. Rebecca Ferguson added even more fuel to the fire. Rebecca Ferguson starred alongside Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds in Life, and she later shared a troubling story about working with an insecure, angry actor who made the set unbearable. Though she never named names, fans instantly deduced who she was talking about. Gyllenhaal doesn't have a reputation for that sort of behavior, which left Reynolds as the prime suspect. She recounted that this individual created such a toxic environment, she eventually refused to even act directly alongside them. Instead, she insisted on performing her scenes against a tennis ball stand-in rather than face her co-star. Imagine how horrifying a situation must become for an actor to prefer a faceless object over the person they're supposed to share the screen with. More tellingly, Ferguson mentioned receiving calls afterward, warning her she'd gone too far by speaking out. If there's one thing that holds true in Hollywood, it's that powerful figures often get protected. And based on these allegations, Ryan Reynolds was wielding significant influence, enough to make others fear the repercussions of crossing him. Directors, co-stars, and even old friends are stepping away, but some of the harshest critiques come from Hollywood legends themselves. It's one thing for up-and-coming actors to tiptoe around a bigger name. It's quite another when established legends start vocalizing their doubts. Quentin Tarantino, a filmmaker known for making blunt, unfiltered statements, took a jab at some of Ryan Reynolds' Netflix blockbusters, saying they were forgettable cash grabs. When Tarantino wonders aloud if anyone actually watches these movies, it reads like a direct hit on Reynolds' body of work. Then, Gerard Butler was asked about one of Ryan's films and responded as if he had no idea what movie the interviewer was referring to. Butler's dismissive tone, whether sincere or performative, underlined how some in the industry see Reynolds as more hype than substance. Similarly, director Chris Columbus criticized Reynolds' attempt to remake a classic film concept, Home Alone, as a stoner comedy, calling it a disservice to cinema. When multiple big names express overt or subtle disdain for an actor's choices, it's a sign that protective barriers may be coming down. In showbiz, it's an unwritten rule to stay polite about colleagues, but apparently, even that courtesy has its limits. But this controlling behavior and crumbling image isn't just about co-workers, it seeps into personal relationships too. Ryan Reynolds' ex-wife Scarlett Johansson once described him as passive-aggressively jealous, hinting that his insecurities made their marriage difficult. For those who see him as the laid-back, cool guy, it's jarring to imagine an undercurrent of resentment. Yet that's exactly what Scarlett hinted at, suggesting he was uneasy when she outshined him professionally. Alanis Morissette, who was engaged to Reynolds for 3 years, echoed similar themes in her post-breakup music. Lyrics implying she'd been involved with someone who was unbelievably insecure seemed more than coincidental. It's not too hard to guess who she might have been referring to, considering the timing and the emotional weight behind those songs. Soon after splitting from Scarlett, Ryan leaped into a relationship with Blake Lively, igniting rumors of overlap, or, at the very least, an unusually swift transition. Blake was less of a global powerhouse at the time compared to Johansson. It's led observers to wonder if this was a calculated move for Reynolds, someone who wanted a partner he could upstage, rather than be overshadowed by. The resulting dynamic, many say, turned into a constant Instagram show, portraying them as the funniest, most in-sync couple in Hollywood. For a while, the public lapped it up. Comedic birthday posts, light jabs at each other's expense, and photos capturing them as the it pair. But critics pointed out that constantly broadcasting perfect couple vibes can seem contrived. Whenever negative press would surface, like controversies around Reynolds' on-set behavior, suddenly, fans got bombarded with cutesy couples banter again. It felt too convenient, like a carefully engineered PR tactic. Now that cracks are showing in that facade, many wonder if their power couple brand is starting to unravel. For years, Ryan Reynolds built an empire on sarcastic charm, witty social media presence, and the belief that he was Hollywood's nicest guy. But the rumors, allegations, and downright open hostility from colleagues paint a starkly different story. We've heard from makeup artists threatened with unemployment, directors who walked away from successful franchises, co-stars belittled into near silence, and legends who openly dismiss him. It's no longer just a whisper campaign, it's out in the open. Even once close friends like Jake Gyllenhaal refuse to acknowledge him, and highly respected names from Quentin Tarantino to Gerard Butler have taken thinly veiled swipes at his projects. Meanwhile, ex-partners like Scarlett Johansson and Alanis Morissette reveal that beneath the witty persona lies deep insecurity and jealousy. So is Ryan Reynolds truly the affable prankster we see on talk shows, or is that simply another role he's playing? Hollywood insiders are starting to say it's more of an act than anyone realized. And with more people stepping forward, the foundation of his funny, nice guy reputation seems shakier than ever. The real question is whether the public will keep buying the comedic, lovable facade when so many individuals, from makeup artists to directors, insist that working with him feels toxic. Will the industry continue to cater to him now that the cracks in his image are impossible to ignore? Or will Ryan Reynolds adapt, tone down the controlling behavior, and find a way to salvage his carefully crafted reputation? One thing seems certain: once Hollywood collectively decides someone is difficult, it's only a matter of time before the carefully constructed walls begin to collapse. If that collapse truly has begun, then we may witness one of the biggest reputation shifts in modern celebrity culture. After all, even the most convincing jokes eventually stop being funny when people realize the punchline always comes at someone else's expense.